all right, what's the verdict? And I'm like, we're making mayonnaise and I'm fucking engaged. And then I start sobbing and then Mark starts crying, which you probably don't want me to share that part, but you did.
That's fine now.
Welcome everyone to the new and improved Primal Kitchen Podcast, formerly known as the Primal Blueprint Podcast. Mark and I are taking over as your hosts, and we'll be discussing trending topics in the health, wellness, fitness, and personal growth space. Join us every week for brilliant new guests, diverse voices, and unique approaches to life that'll hopefully pique your curiosity and open your mind. A quick reminder, any and all opinions and views shared by hosts and guests on this podcast are the speaker's own and do not represent the view of Primal Kitchen or its affiliates or parent company. Hello. Did I say that fast enough?
It was fine. It sounds like you were as excited as I am about this new thing.
I know. I love it. Awesome. So for those of you that don't know, I'm Morgan. I'm co-founder and president of Primal Kitchen. Mark and I have been working together since end of 2013.
End of 2013. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. I started consulting for Mark for $50 an hour in the end of 2013. I was also working for Rick, who's our COO and kind of the trifecta that makes up this group that kind of catapulted Primal Kitchen into the atmosphere. So I'm happy to be here and I'm super excited to be taking over as the podcast. We're going to talk today about the Primal Kitchen story. So let's get into it. Mark.
Yes, Morgan.
Why did you start Primal Kitchen?
Well, I started, again, this is a 40-year-old story. Goes back to my training days and my dissatisfaction with both the training methods and the types of foods that were available to train, to fuel the training that I was doing. Over the years, as I got injured from a crappy diet, as I had to retire from competition, as I had to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, and I started to delve more deeply into performance, not just sports performance, but health and wellness, and started writing books and I started a supplement company, and I was always so attuned to what you put in your body and how you could improve your performance, improve your health, become stronger, leaner, fitter, faster, based on those sorts of choices that you made. And lo and behold, it wasn't until 2013 or 14 I realized, holy smokes, I've been writing about eating real food and how to make healthy food taste better for decades now. And half of what I'm writing about is teaching people how to make things to put on food, sauces, dressings, toppings, condiments, things like that you just couldn't find in the store that were healthy. So, you could find them, but they may have tasted great, but they weren't good for you. And really that prompted my interest in creating a line of products that you could feel really good about putting on your food. And early days of paleo, I think the first thing that got crossed off everyone's list was mayonnaise, because it was so full of nasty oils and it had additives and preservatives and colors and artificial this and that. And for a lot of people, that meant no tuna salad, no egg salad, no chicken salad, no coleslaw. It was like scratched off a whole 2 chapters of a cookbook, for crying out loud. So the first thing, I thought I wanted to do was create mayonnaise, ketchup, and salad dressings, and
barbecue sauce and barbecue.
Well, oh my goodness, the barbecue sauce too. Well, what's funny is as we go back over those initial iterations, the barbecue sauce sort of emerged from the development kitchen while we were trying all those other things, while we were trying to come up with a great salad dressing. Remember our Thai curry lemon salad dressing? Yeah.
It wasn't going to sell well, but it was good.
No, it wasn't exactly right. It was a niche product, right? Yeah. So the barbecue sauce kind of emerged, and it became now there's competitors to what we would call bitchin' sauce and things like that. But at the time, it was the kind of sauce that you could put on anything, and it tasted great.
Yeah, of course, for those of you listening, Mark was obsessed with this barbecue sauce. We had a prototype of it. We also had this amazing mayonnaise, and I looked at the ingredients of the barbecue sauce, and I was like, Mark, we cannot fucking launch this. It was like 45% maple syrup. It was just straight.
It was paleo.
It was paleo, but it was not keto. This was before your keto book. Yeah. It was anything but keto. Yeah. And it just didn't really feel right morally. So we tabled it until
we
could figure
tabled
out
that
how
for a
to do
few
it
years.
unsweetened.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the secret. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And again, the whole concept was to create products that you felt really good about putting on healthy food.
yeah.
And I think we achieved that early on, and we sort of set ourselves in motion for a strategy for looking at different categories of sauces and dressings and toppings and dips, and identifying what it is that people really want there, and then how to make the best in that category.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to set the stage for everyone. So I'm like 27 at the time, maybe 28. I don't know. I'm running marketing for this brand called Kavita. I'm a big, I've had my own health revelation. I follow Mark, of course, because if you're into health and you're in your late 20s, or I guess any age, you knew who Mark was, right? Like he was leading the movement in paleo. So Kavita sponsors this event called Primal Con, where Mark used to have rent out this hotel. Everyone would run around barefoot, play ultimate frisbee with Mark, eat all this paleo food. It was in Oxnard. Kavita was also in Oxnard. So we sponsored the event. I definitely didn't need to go, but I really wanted to meet Mark. So I went. I meet Mark and his wife, Carrie. We totally hit it off. And I end up giving you guys a ride home to your hotel at the end of the night of your own event. And then I quit Kavita and I don't hear from Mark. I mean, it was just a fun, hey, I got to meet this really cool guy. I'm on a surf trip with my now husband, living in a van for a week, surfing from San Francisco to San Diego. And I get this call. This is 4 months later. I have quit my job. I'm about to be unemployed, the following week. And Mark's like, hey, we met a few months ago. I want to launch this food company. I'm wondering if you can help. So I, of course, accepted. I can remember even where I was. We were in some parking lot, maybe getting gas in this juicy van. And that was kind of the start of the relationship. So anyway, just fond memories for me. But at the time, Mark had office space in the Malibu Chamber of Commerce. So when I first started working for you, you had this small team that is still, most of them still work for us today. Mm-hmm. I mean, Jay was in customer service. He's in sales. Farhad was in, shipping, and he's now
picking and packing. Yeah.
I mean, he's now an integral part of our entire logistics operation, right? Some customer service folks were there that are still with us today. So it was a small, close-knit team, but you had a business that was growing for a while and then starting to kind of decline. The bottom was falling out a little bit. You were still obviously very successful in your own right, but kind of figuring out, okay, what's next? And this food thing came out. Did you know anything about the food space?
I mean, I would say that that's the best, the single most important element of starting this business was that I knew nothing about it. So I had a tremendous amount of confidence and hubris that maybe if I'd been in the food space for, working for somebody else, I would have been a little bit more hesitant to get started. But I'm like, we can do this. I think, this is going to be great and it's going to be fun and business is business. But what I knew what I didn't know, and that's one of the reasons I hired you early on, that I needed somebody who had experience in food. I could handle, I thought, the marketing aspect of this, but the amount of hurdles that we had to overcome from day one was pretty incredible. And I look back on that right now, and it's with very fond memories. But there were a lot of tears in the process, as you recall.
For sure. I feel like we were lucky though. Some of these founder stories I hear are just brutal. We had a lot of champagne problems. We just grew fast. I mean,
that's probably the single, biggest issue that a lot of food companies start is just growth is at a snail's pace early on. And, you come up with what you think is a wonderful new food idea. And now you have to convince not just your parents and your wife or, your boyfriend or whatever. Now you have to go out there and prove that it's a marketable product and that you can make it in scale and that it'll have a shelf life and won't go bad and it'll taste great and people will want to get it. And I to our credit, and I think one of the great advantages that we had coming in was I had 10 years of building a brand before we launched Primal Kitchen. So there were enough of my viewers, my readers, my followers who were kind of ready, willing, and able to roll up their sleeves and go, yeah, we'll try this. This sounds great. Even though it's a little bit more expensive, it's exactly what we've been looking for.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, I'm going to back it up for you. So the first meeting I had with Mark, we sat down and we did I had worked at an agency before. So we did a little bit of the branding stuff, like what's the mission, what's the vision? And I remember in that meeting, you didn't have a name yet for Primal Kitchen. And I said, oh, you should name it something like Primal Kitchen. You were going to call it Primal Blueprint. And you were like, oh, this meeting was worthwhile. I'll never forget. I was like, you asshole, this meeting was worthwhile 30 fucking minutes ago. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of hilarious.
I said that. I'm sorry.
Yes, you said that. No, of course. It was hilarious. It was hilarious looking back. But anyway, okay. So the mayonnaise, we launched the mayonnaise. It took 18 months after we started working on it to actually have a product in our hands.
That was really the frustrating part. As you recall, I had some partners, who were great people. And, I was very excited about the possibility of launching 5 products at the same time, a suite of 5 products. And so our deal was kind of come up with these 5 products. We'll launch them within 12 months, and we'll hit the ground running with not just one product, because that was one of the things that a number of our advisors had told us, try to have more than one product, at least in a category, and or at least flavors and things like that. And lo and behold, after a year, and things got in the way. That they were busy. They had a child. There were other business issues that they were dealing with. And so at the end of a year, Morgan and I are like, okay, it's been a year. We've got all this marketing ready to roll out. We don't have a product yet. And at the end of that year, we did have one, and that was the mayonnaise with the one product. So we launched the one product, and
February 15th, maybe February 6th of 2015, the mayonnaise.
2015,
mayonnaise, yeah. And at the same time, Mark had invested in Thrive Market. Were born at very much the same time we were, in a sense. And they asked us, I remember they came and said, can we launch your mayonnaise exclusively? And we were like, well, sure. Cause we don't know who else.
Yeah. We don't have anyone else. So why not? Sure. Exclusive. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And they had all this PR. So we got to tag on with all their PR for free. And we also launched a campaign on Twitter, a Hold the Canola campaign, hashtag Hold the Canola. And I remember this is a very pivotal moment for me. The hashtag, we were going to give away 300 free jars of mayonnaise for anyone who used this hashtag Hold the Canola. And someone said, enough of this Hold the Canola hashtag, it's annoying me. And I was like, oh my God, I've made it as a marketer. We have a campaign that is annoying someone.
We have haters. Yay.
Yeah, we had haters. We also had a coworker who was not the biggest fan of the mayonnaise business as a whole.
Well, he was basically, I had hired him more recently to be the CEO of the company. And he had sort of a vision of taking what we were doing in supplements and expanding that. And he said in no uncertain terms, you absolutely don't want to go into the mayonnaise business. My wife is French. I know mayonnaise. You're not going to want to be in that business. You're going to fail miserably. And of course, that was just more impetus for us. I remember that year, they said, what are you going to do in sales and in dollar? We were doing a budget.
Right.
And I said, I think we'll do $500,000 in sales this year in this product, first year out. He goes, you're crazy. He says, you'll be lucky if you do 200,000. I said, all right, look, let's put 300,000 on the revenue side for the budget. And let's just cross our fingers. And so we did that. And, what was the number for the first year? What did we do for?
If you ask me or if you ask Mark, you always get a different answer. Yeah. I'm the optimist president and Mark's the conservative. Well, it was 1.7 million.
1.7 million. Yeah. So it was a little bit higher than the 200,000 that he was predicting in the best case scenario. He didn't last long. He was gone within 2 months, I think.
Yeah. I actually remember we were, we had taken a bunch of orders. We had product that was sold, but we didn't have the product in hand to sell yet. So we pre-sold our whole first run. We thought the inventory would last a year. We thought it has a 12-month shelf life. If we get through this before the end of the year and we don't have to scrap any of it, that will be a success. And in a week, it was sold out, gone.
That's right.
Sold out. Yeah. We had mayonnaise. We were in an office space. There was no pallets. There was no racks.
No racks.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had hand unloaded the pallets of product and they were stacked up in his office because he was gone. So the irony of it all was he didn't like the taste of the mayonnaise. He didn't think it was going to be a success. And in his physical place was floor to ceiling boxes of mayonnaise. And we were so backed up that you and I were hand packing orders. Everyone in customer service was hand packing orders. I mean, we couldn't get this stuff out the door fast enough. It was crazy. And then we proceeded to operate really on just-in-time inventory by accident. I mean, we didn't even know what just-in-time inventory was by accident for the entire first year. We
Sure.
putting in
you
another
keep up with the demand. Yeah.
We couldn't keep up. We'd say, okay, we'll make it a little bit bigger. And then we'd run out right before the next shipment arrived. And it just carried on like that. So
yeah, no, it was I think every entrepreneur's dream to be able to, fulfill that sort of demand and keep up with it just in time. So not to have huge amounts of inventory that you're hoping and praying that you'll be able to sell before it goes bad or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was helped tremendously by the Thrive deal. So Thrive, because they launched at the same time and they were giving the product away as premium for membership. And so we were both pulling levers. Like I was trying to encourage people to join Thrive Market. And when they did that, they would get a free jar of mayonnaise, which Thrive was buying from us at a price to help drive their membership. And then there was the Whole Foods deal, which was amazing. And we, I think in a lot of food companies, it's such a long period of time, but between the time you develop it and the time you get your first shelf space in any of the health food stores, because you have to prove that you can make it, prove that you can make it to scale, prove that it tastes great, that people are going to want it. Then you have to submit it for review. And if you miss the review period by one day, you don't get a chance to present your product for another year sometimes. And then even if you get approved, sometimes it's 3 or 4 months until they reset the shelves. And resetting for the viewers is basically they have to wait till they sell out of whoever they're going to kick out to put you in. They have to sort of sell out of them first. So there are a lot of these things that we kind of bypassed that when we had some friends who were familiar with the Primal Blueprint, some CrossFit people who were into paleo and into the whole thing at Whole Foods who are buyers. And they said, yeah, this is great. This is what we've been looking for. We'll take you on without that whole rigmarole of the review process, or we'll speed up the review process.
Yeah. And Mark's talking about David Woods, who actually, I think is working for CrossFit now, but he was the Rocky Mountain regional buyer. And this is great because I had heard that you wanted to be with Green Spoon and Yin Yang. They were the brokers you need. And it's this whole chicken and the egg situation when you're launching. Like, do you get a broker first, but then you need to UNFI the distributor to carry your product. And then you need the buyer to say yes. It's like a very intricate dance to actually get your product on shelf in retail stores.
Well, and just, because, for instance, Whole Foods won't take you unless you're with a broker.
Right.
Unless you're with
unless you have distribution.
And a distributor won't take you unless you have actual purchase orders.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So I had reached out to Andrew, who I'm going to send this podcast to after this and make sure he hears this part, and asked him if he would represent us, be our broker to help us get into Whole Foods. And they were at the time like kind of sister companies with this company, Green Spoon, who was headquartered in Boulder, where David Woods was the buyer for the Rocky Mountain region. And Andrew had turned me down. He's like, oh, we're not taking any more brands now, which is like basically a nice way of saying like, I don't know who you are and I'm not interested in carrying your product. We're good. But like fast forward 4 weeks and we get this email from Kari at Green Spoon. And she said like, hey, we're looking to represent you guys. There's a buyer at Whole Foods who's interested in bringing you in, but he doesn't want to like deal with setting you up direct. So he requested we like sign you on and we can get you into Whole Foods. And I was like, oh, that's great. Oh, are you covered nationwide? And she's like, well, we work with our, sister company, Yin Yang. And I was like, oh, they rejected us. And she's like, well, I think I can call them and we can do something about that. So sure enough, she called Andrew. He took us on. We're still with this broker today, which, for those of you that don't know, that's very rare to be with someone when you're starting up that you're still with post-acquisition and you're doing over 100 million in sales, which we are today. We're still with them. And we are like, I don't know, one of the top. I remember Andrew called me a few years later and he's like, yeah, you guys are top 3 account for us. And I was like, yeah, remember when you rejected me and you wouldn't take us as your partner 3 years ago? So it all comes full circle, but it really was success based entirely off David Wood's like man crush on Mark. Like he just knew we had a big community behind us and the product was going to be successful. And he took a chance on us. And, we were super lucky. I mean, we were on shelves at Whole Foods in June of 2015 and we launched in February. It was
crazy. Yeah. That's very quick. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was one of like our little pieces of good luck that really like catapulted the brand. And I don't think at the time we realized, I remember calling Amanda, she's now our EVP of growth. At the time, she was like not going to come work for us. She's like, I'll answer your calls, whatever advice you need. She taught entrepreneurship at USC. She's a genius, very strategic, knows food and beverage in and out, worked for Whole Foods, ran sales and marketing for other companies. I mean, she's like the real deal. And she was like, no, I've got like 3 kids. I'm not doing anything right now, but like, you can keep calling me. And we had been in Whole Foods for like a month. And I remember I was like, yeah, I just got some data from Whole Foods. Like, this is what we're doing in volume. And we're doing, like 10 units per store per week. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, 10 units per store per week. And when we're on sale, it's like 30 units per store per week. And, this is $9.99 mayonnaise. Like, this is not cheap. I mean, we're like 3.5 times the price per ounce of our nearest competitor, right? And she was like, that velocity is insane. You need to figure out how you can get more equity in this company right now. Like this, you don't even know what's going on. And we really like didn't even know what was going on, but it was like a pretty magical first year. And then 2016 hit, which brings me to my next question of what was the most stressful time in Primal Kitchen history for you?
Well, it was, we'd been on this ramp of increasing shelf space in stores and increasing the number of stores. And I forget if we'd gotten into Publix yet.
You had gone to the meeting and we had sold it, but we hadn't shipped yet.
Sold it, right. And so we were starting to get some serious orders. And we get a call from our manufacturer one day, and we were supposed to make a run of, I forget how many jars it would have been. Might've been, I'm going to say 15,000 jars or something like that. Some significant amount of mayonnaise. And the call was, we tried to run your mayonnaise over the weekend, and we couldn't make it. It wouldn't emulsify. Something happened. We don't know what it was. We don't know whether it was the oil or whether it was the machinery, but we can't figure it out. And I'm sorry, but honestly, I'm like, well, and you and I are like, well, all right, let's run it again. And the answer was, well, okay, we can, but you're going to have to wait 3 weeks because we've already filled that space up on the production line. I'm like, 3 weeks? Goodness gracious. That's like, how's that going to happen? And so we wait 3 weeks. And then the next thing you know, we get a call. We tried to run it this week, and it did not run. We couldn't get it to emulsify. And literally, it was something like 7,000 gallons of material down the drain, literally down the drain. And you and I are just going crazy. Like, wait a minute, for almost a year, we've been making mayonnaise
with the same manufacturer,
the same manufacturer and the same ingredients and the same oil. What is going on here? And, they put their heads together and they thought, well, we're making it on a slightly different line and there's different temperatures that are involved. And, maybe it has something to do with the temperature. We don't know. And you and I are like, wait a minute, you're supposed to know this and it should be pretty easy to do this. And anyway, so we're thinking we're out of business. We're literally thinking if this next run doesn't take place, we've, this great business that we've started, that we've taken off and just shot toward the moon, is going to end before it has a chance to even, thrive at all. And so why don't you tell the rest of the story? Because
yeah, this is good. So then we tried like a third time. I think it failed again. They agreed to run it on the weekend for us. We'd pay overtime because we were so desperate. We're out of inventory at this point. We're going to lose our shelf placement if we don't get product to the shelf. They're just going to drop you and put some competitor in your place. So they agreed to run a weekend run for us. It was a Sunday. And I actually ended up getting engaged on this Sunday. Okay. And then I got the call that said, hey, good news. We figured it out. We're back in business. You guys are making mayonnaise. So I purposely didn't call Mark because it was such a big deal that to be making mayonnaise again, that I wanted to tell him in person. So he's calling me Monday. I'm driving to Malibu to go meet him to go to lunch, because that's pretty much how we worked for the first 2 years, was just meet up, go have a lunch meeting, take orders and move on with the day. So I'm going to meet him. He's calling. I'm ignoring the calls. We meet in the Malibu Chamber of Commerce office in the little like makeshift kitchen we had. He comes in, he opens the door. I'm working in the kitchen. I don't have an office at this point. I actually still don't have an office today. And he's like, all right, what's the verdict? And I'm like, we're making mayonnaise and I'm fucking engaged. And then I start sobbing and then Mark starts crying, which you probably don't want me to share that part, but you did.
That's fine now.
And he's like, I'm so happy for you. And I'm so happy we're making mayonnaise. And it was just it was such an entrepreneurial moment.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
When they talk about, entrepreneurship being, big tumultuous highs and real low lows, that's kind of what it is. It's a roller coaster half the time.
Yeah, for sure. And there was one other moment, I would say. We had an early frivolous lawsuit that we thought was a slam dunk, and it ended up costing, how much did it cost?
$180,000 when we had this was like early on
this was like halfway through 2015. So, I mean, we hadn't even finished our year of $1.7 million in mayonnaise sales.
Yeah. We were just a couple of months into it. And it was a suit over the name. It was a lawsuit over the name. Somebody had argued that they own the rights to the name. So we wound up settling that for $180,000, which was, and I remember I was driving home.
I remember
from that. Yeah. And I was really pissed, although talk about feeling down during that arbitration, that mediation. The mediator came in and she said, you should be prepared to write a check for $500,000 today. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because my lawyer had said, you're going to skate out of here with it's not going to cost you anything. Zero money. I'm like, well, it'll probably cost me 70 or 80, but it's worth it. And then she comes in and says, be prepared to pay $500,000. I'm like, well, geez, I mean, my heart sank, almost threw up. And then, so when we walked out of there with a deal for 180, I'm like, I think I feel pretty good about this. I'm not sure yet.
You were also ready to throw up.
Yeah.
You were also ready to throw
up. And I do remember you saying, well, you know what? There'll be a time when we look back on this and it'll be the best 180 you ever spent.
Yeah.
So, and it wasn't the best 180 I ever spent. But it's close. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, there's some stuff with that legal stuff, which you handled and I never had to deal with. Thank God that, when you have that precedent, then it helps you for the future. So, but I mean, it was a big deal. We thought about changing the name. I mean, we were like, should we change the name? I mean, we're so early in this game. We don't really have any equity in the name. I mean, thank God we didn't, because it's a great name, but yeah.
No, it is. And I had already purchased Primal Kitchen, the name, from another individual. So it wasn't like, even though we came up with that name, somebody had come up with it before us. And so I purchased everything from that guy first, including all of the URL, primalkitchen.com, a Twitter handle, an Instagram handle, prior art and all sorts of things that went back. But this other thing sort of came out of the woodwork. I think it was rather frivolous, but anyway, it worked out. It all worked out.
We got through it. Yeah, for sure. What's the best advice you got when launching the business, you think?
Wow. The best advice upon launching the business, that's really interesting. I mean, I think when somebody realized that I hadn't started a new company, I had just added this line of products onto my existing company. So all of the R&D, all of the product development, all of the losses that we might have had that first year or two, they came out of pre-tax dollars because it was already part of a successful business. I was making a fair amount of money, like enough to retire on almost, but in the supplement business. But the fact that I didn't just start a new separate company was probably one of the smartest things I did.
Yeah.
And so there are a number of business people who sort of rolled their eyes and thought, well, it seems obvious, but I never would have thought to do it that way. I would have started a separate company and whatever. So, and just again, for the listener who's not an entrepreneur, every time in California, you take $1 of profit and then you pay your 62 cents in taxes. And I'm serious about that. And you're left with 38 or 40 cents. And then you start a new company with the 40 cents. That's not the smartest way to start a new company. So I would take the $1, and before I took it out of the company and paid taxes on it, if there were losses, I was able to eat those losses in the existing company. just by rolling the new product into the existing company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's smart. I feel like for me, maybe we had a lot of like private equity early advice. And I think one of the most interesting pieces of advice I received was that some things are worth more money in a PowerPoint presentation than they are in reality. Like, we knew we wanted to sell the company, so I want to get into that next, but knowing that, and I think it's important to know your end goal at the beginning. Like, whenever anyone calls me asking for advice in their food company, I'm like, what's your goal? You got a lifestyle business here, you want to hand it over to your kids, you want to sell one day, and then you got to filter every decision through what's going to maximize the value based off the end goal. And not doing things is sometimes better than doing them. Like, not launching a product, because as soon as it's launched and it goes into Walmart, like, some very smart analyst at the company who you want to acquire you is just going to run the numbers and know that that's only a $5 million business. But if you leave it to their imagination, the potential acquirer could think it's $50 million opportunity. Right. So the sky's the limit. I think that was an interesting like revelation for me, that, while we never had a meeting with a PowerPoint presentation before we were acquired, the PowerPoint, the value of something in a PowerPoint over in real life is, I think, very real. Okay. So let's talk about, I'm going to set the stage again. So we've launched this company. We have no idea. Really, we were pretty naive to what we were onto. I mean, I think we realized we were onto something special, but I don't think we realized just how special that thing was going to become. And at the time, Mark told me, if we could just sell this company for $30 million, I would be happy.
It was probably in one of those down moments when we had
No, it was not. You were just like very real about where we were at. I mean, this is like, I'm talking March of 2015. Like, we sold out of the first, run, which was like, I don't know, I think a $25,000 investment. I can't remember. It was like 3,600 cases of sick.
The first run?
Yeah. How much was it?
First run was 12,000 jars.
12,000 jars. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
So it's $36,000, something like that. 40,000. I don't know.
Yeah.
All in. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was just, seemed lofty at the time, because the goalpost shifted. So then this was my life for the next 3 years. Morgan, I think if we could just sell it for 100 million, then would be good. All right. I think we're big enough now. If we could just sell it for 200 million,
yeah,
be good. And Mark just kept going. And you know what? I think I suffered from some serious limiting beliefs. Like, I don't give you enough credit for like the visionary that you are. I mean, I do, but not to your face. But there was just so much vision there on like what could really happen here. I mean, no one was making condiments with avocado oil. No one. We were the only people at the time who were making mayonnaise, salad dressing, you name it, with avocado oil. It was only sold in bottles. This is revolutionary. Now there's how many companies making condiments out of avocado oil, which I think is fabulous, because the world needs more people condiments made with avocado oil and not canola or soybean oil. So I'm here for it. But, it was interesting. Okay. Tell us about the Jim Carrey check, because I just love this story. This is hats off to Mark's wife, Carrie. This is like the best thing I've ever heard.
So Jim Carrey told this story a long time ago, when he was basically homeless, living on the street, sleeping in his car, trying to get gigs left and right. But he was a very funny guy, clearly, but hadn't been discovered yet. He knew he was going to be successful one day. And so he wrote himself a check for $25 million. And he kept it on his nightstand. As I recall, he tells the story. And something like 8 years later, he got a check for $25 million for making the movie The Mask. So talk about manifesting, at its highest level. So I think my wife had said, or I had told our therapist at one time, we were talking about what the rest of our life looks like, and what my number is, because everybody has their number, and I had said 40 million was my number, and so that was great. I mean, she used that for whatever. She said, well, how can you orchestrate your life so that becomes a reality over time, over the next several decades? And so Carrie wrote a check for $40 million and put it in my bedstand.
Unbeknownst to you, you didn't know it was there.
No, I knew that. So
you knew that. Okay.
So I knew that, and I never looked at it. And so cut to a few years later, when we sell the company, and for, it's common knowledge for 200 million. And the investors got some and you got some, and it was great. And I sort of went to Carrie and I said, well, that's pretty cool, isn't it? That we manifested that. And she said, had you ever looked in the nightstand since I wrote the check? And I said, no. She'd go look at it. She'd written a check for 100 million. She had put a check for 100 million there like a few years earlier.
I love it.
That was crazy. Yeah.
I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
So when we first started the company, like what made you most excited on a daily basis, and how has that changed to today?
So, I go back to, I'm like a kid who goes wild for an Easter egg hunt. So, when I was 7, my dad used to take me golfing. I would caddy for him, or, it would look like caddying. I would lug whatever bag he had and hand him a club or whatever and accompany him around the golf course. And my favorite part of that was going up in the woods and when he would shank a ball, which wasn't very often because he was a great golfer, but when something would go in the woods, we'd go looking for golf balls. We'd try to find his, but in the process, I'd usually find 6 or 8 or 10 other golf balls. And, if you're a golfer, that's how it happens. And so I got this sort of like this massive serotonin dopamine hit every time I found a golf ball. So over my life as an entrepreneurial kid, when I would make Christmas wreaths with my sister and we would sell them at Christmas time. And every time I sold a wreath, it was like a dopamine hit. It was like finding a golf ball or finding an Easter egg. Every time I would take time off from school, I would shovel driveways. Every driveway, $5, $2, whatever it was. It was like a dopamine hit. And it was this collection of these little mini successes, finding things and being successful at them. And so with Primal Kitchen, every time we opened a new store or opened a new door or, got some great review from somebody, it was this kind of dopamine hit. I mean, I think I was made for CPG. I think I was really made to have a product that the customer can taste or touch or feel or wear or whatever, because it really gives me a tremendous amount of satisfaction to just kind of get that. It's like an Easter egg hunt or looking for golf balls. That's the best way I can describe it.
I love it. What do you think was what could we attribute like the success of Primal Kitchen to? Outside of the community, because that's an easy answer. Like your community, all that, of course, that's easy.
Well, I tell people it's a 40-year overnight success story. So from my perspective, I've spent my whole life sort of working my way toward the timing of this, right? So the timing of it was having built a platform with Mark's Daily Apple and having a following with the books. The timing of it was finding you at the right time, and even the timing of you leaving your job. Because who knows, if it had been 6 or 8 months earlier, you might have not been available. I would have, someone else might have been hired. It was literally the timing of hiring Rick. Who is the third part of this three musketeer group that really did, most of the heavy lifting. Rick was amazing in that he would, whatever I didn't want to do or you didn't want to do, he wanted to do. He loved doing, or if he didn't love doing it, he certainly let you know that he was okay doing it. Right. I think that had we launched this sort of product 5 years earlier, it might not have caught on. The world was ready for a high fat, healthy fat sort of thing, and healthy fats weren't yet, in vogue. So so much of what happens with successful businesses is a combination of a great idea and tremendous timing and a lot of luck, and the receptivity of a marketplace. So, it's not one thing, it's just a combination of things. It's like a perfect storm of all these things coming together.
I agree. I think when I asked this in my head, I was thinking, Rick, I mean, we really lucked out because I handled like the sales and the marketing and the branding and, some of the other like relationships with co-mans and all that fun stuff. You were the visionary, the face of the brand, and Rick was like the workhorse that got shit. I mean, we would have been lost without Rick, quite honestly. And then I think it extends. I think then we would have been lost without Amanda's strategic advice. We would have been lost without Anna coming on and taking over marketing at the end of year one. Alex Schildmeyer stepping up. I mean, just the people that we collected, that we curated.
And that's timing and luck. And certainly, it's the other, it's those personalities for sure and what they bring, but it's the timing of their being available and meeting them and the luck of having them say, yeah, sure, I'll come work for this startup and do this. And so there not a day goes by when I don't look back and go, wow, so many things came together perfectly for this to do as well as it has and to continue to do great. I mean, everybody's at the craft is thrilled with the way we're going. So there's no reason to suspect it's not going to continue to skyrocket from here. But, there are a lot, you and I have been in this business long enough to see a number of companies who looked like they were going to be awesome, just kind of peter out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. I think another thing we did well is I've learned this, we always said we had a strict no assholes policy and we stuck to that. So I think that was good. I remember firing some brokers and they didn't pass the asshole policy.
Yeah.
So there was definitely some relationships we let go of. But I think also we hired people and didn't put them in a box. I mean, we didn't hire an org chart. We found people who were passionate about the business and smart and motivated and entrepreneurial. And then we formed the job description around them. I mean, Rick was our third person and he wasn't even a full-time employee until after we were acquired by Kraft Heinz. I mean, he was a contract employee. Amanda wouldn't even come work for us. And then she's had 50 different roles. I mean, Anna comes from manufacturing of equipment for golf courses. She was managing communications for Toro and, other University of Minnesota, but, we knew we had a good egg. Same thing with Kelly Partenheimer was at Miller Coors selling beer, but we knew we had a good salesperson. I think
so many people, Jay Money,
She won a poster designing contest. That's
Janae, right.
For Mark.
Yeah.
She won a poster designing contest long before Primal Kitchen. And then she's now our creative director. I mean, she did all of our label design, everything in-house. We've no agencies. We've done everything in-house. And it's because we just have these kick-ass people and we've been flexible. You've been really flexible. You were way ahead. This is very pre-COVID. You had employees in Australia, Seattle, all over when I met you. And this was not common practice. You were always valuing everyone's freedom and autonomy over where they wanted to live and work from home. And you made it work. I remember you telling me you were taking calls with Aaron on Sunday nights because it worked better for his time in Australia. I'm like, Mark, push it to Monday night at least, man. This is how you're wrapping up every weekend. But, I think that was cool that you were real, it should come as no surprise, right? You've kind of like I say, Mark is not one who rides the center line and you were pushing that boundary before it was cool to push that boundary. So.
Well, I mean, it goes back again to hiring people for their particular personality and how they feel about the lifestyle that we're espousing, and maybe their innate skill set, because they can learn the skills of the job that they're going to take on for us. But it was always most important that the mindset and they gel with the rest of the team, and that was. And so with that, when you start talking about remote working, you can't expect somebody to clock in at 8 and clock out at 5 in their house. That's not how work gets done, and that's certainly not how creative work gets done. So I said from the beginning, I'd rather have somebody who's in a creative position, have an aha moment at 10 o'clock at night and get out of bed and scribble it down and and then execute it on the next day, then stand by the water cooler in the office from 8 to 5, trading weekend golf stories with another employee and getting nothing done. I've seen so much of that in other workplaces where people they show up and then it's almost by virtue of the fact that they have to show up and they have to clock in and they have to do all this stuff that their creativity kind of falls by the wayside. So, everything we've done seems to have involved some amount of creative thinking, whether it was, just the R&D on the types of products, or whether it was the label design. Certainly our entire marketing team, all of the cool things that we've come up with over the years, the slogans and the sayings and I feel like we've really done very well with that sort of thing, and creating an Instagram account with closing in on 700,000 followers. That's wickedly creative. You don't do that without being tremendously creative. And so, it's all about creativity when you're growing a company like that. And the danger is, as you get to become a mature company and you lose the creativity, and now you're just, doing the same things over and over again because, that's what the market expects of you. I'm not interested in that.
Yeah, I hear you. So let's talk about the acquisition process, because I'm sure people are curious, like what that looked like for us. So we launched in February of 2015. We were acquired in we signed in November of 18.
Yeah.
And we closed January 3rd of 2019. And I had my first baby on November 6th of 2018. And we negotiated the deal while I was topless, breastfeeding,
on the phone,
in my kitchen, on the phone with lawyers.
Yeah.
All day. I remember telling my husband, I can't do this anymore. He's like, you got it, babe. A few more days. I think you can do this.
Yeah.
Giving a pep talk. But let's talk about just like leading up to that, like what that looked like for us, because that's a good story.
Yeah. So as we went from 2015, our first year, 2016, we had a great year. We 7x'd our sales the next year. We did 7 times the next year what we did the first year. I think we made it, maybe tripled it the next year. Doubled. So we knew, pardon me?
Doubled.
Okay.
1.7, 13, 26.
Yeah. All the numbers. Okay. And at that point, we knew, that we were ready to get ready to start interviewing investment bankers to see if we could be acquired by a strategic company, or if not a strategic, by a private equity firm. So we started interviewing investment bankers. And that was a really interesting process, because I think we were sort of the darling of the food industry at the time, even though we hadn't grown as large as we might have wanted to, over time. We were still in that sweet spot where there were a lot of people who were potentially interested in us, and certainly the investment banking community was interested in us.
The private equity community was on our heels for sure.
Yeah. And so that we started, I took an office at the Soho House in Malibu, as it were. We had a back room there, and we would invite, we would have investment bankers who were going to pitch us on the deal, on their wanting to represent us for the deal, come fly out to Los Angeles, drive out to Malibu, and meet with us for a half a day, sometimes more, at the Soho House, or what we call it, the Little Beach House in Malibu. And how many did we have? 6 teams come out?
Yeah, we did.
It was crazy.
And I just have to interject here that we had 6 teams come out. They would fly in with a whole, 20 people, 10 people, maybe 20 is an exaggeration, but 10 people of their team who had done all this analysis on our business. They're going to tell you why you should hire them to sell it and how much value your company has. We're sitting at Soho House, which for those of you that don't know is like Anthropology threw up on the most beautiful restaurant on the face of the earth. It's on PCH on the Pacific Coast Highway, but full ocean views, and like Jennifer Garner's on one side, Patrick Dempsey's on the other. I'm just a girl from the Midwest, like calling my mom after, like, you will not freaking believe what happened today. So this was our like office. Mark, Rick, and I had a lot of board meetings at Soho House. This is like the only place we met for, I don't know, a year and a half.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay, carry on. We probably met with 60 people, say 6 firms, 10 people came out from each firm. I was the only female present for every single one of those 6 meetings. Not only was there not a female investment banker pitching, there wasn't even a female investment banker in attendance. So it was kind of a funny, the food industry is so run by women. Like it really is, there's no like, it's just not a non-issue, but the investment banking industry is something entirely different. So, okay, carry on.
Well, then I'm just going to say, ironically, there was one person that we felt really had shown herself to be.
But that wasn't until after, Mark.
No. I'm talking about a different one. I'm
Oh.
talking about a different one. There was a person who we thought we'd identified very early on as the person who
we wanted to sell the company.
that we wanted to represent us. And over the ensuing 6 months, while we're talking to other bankers, we set up, I'm going to say 5 meetings with this person.
Yeah.
And every time we had a meeting, we're excited. This is the one. I think really feel strongly about this. And she flaked every single time. And there was always a reason. I'm late in one other meeting. I can't make your meeting, whatever it was. And I just that was so frustrating to me. And finally we just said, you know what, she's out. We're not even going to go there. And then at the end of this process, we had met at a trade show at an investment banker.
So real quick though, we did this process in the fall.
Yep.
It was November. We always have a bad cycle in November, December. We're always like down on the business every year. And then January kicks off and like the business takes this huge step up and sustains the whole year. But like Q4 every year is always this scary time for us for some reason. We've started to recognize it better. So we put the process on hold. We met all these people. Then we said, you know what, we're going to hold off for 6 months. It doesn't feel like the right energetic time to sell the company. Let's see where we get into next year. We'll revisit things then. So we had kind of just taken a break.
Yeah, we want to be sure that we could come through with the predictions that we made in those PowerPoint presentations, right?
And we wanted to sell on the next year's revenue, quite honestly. We thought if we start a process now, we're going to sell on the end of our sales in 2017. And we wanted to sell on our 2018 numbers.
Right. So we had met a woman at a trade show, and very compelling argument. She was with a very large bank. We didn't want to go with that bank because they're known for doing, multi-billion-dollar deals. And we were afraid that we would get sort of, as a smaller company, get kind of given second shrift in that process. So we sort of waited, and then she left that company and went with a boutique firm. And as soon as she went to that boutique firm, we decided this is our time to strike. And so it was, you're right, it was around, I'm going to say May? April or May. Yeah. So we had started the process in November, interviewing through November and December with 6 other investment banking firms, put the process on hold, and then hired our team end of April, beginning of May.
Romitha, she was epic. So we loved working with her. She was like, when we had a good one. She really she knew her stuff. That was cool. Yeah, it was a good time. So then June, we actually met with Kraft Heinz, and I stole a little ketchup bottle pin that they had at the front desk of this meeting, our first meeting with them, because I just felt like there was something special maybe that was going to happen there. And Romitha agreed. We met with, I think we met with Steven, who's now our CFO. He's been with the company since the acquisition. He came over, he's working for Primal Kitchen. He's amazing. But I think it was like some other folks that aren't even with Kraft Heinz anymore that were in the meeting. And then we met them in June. We kicked off our process formally. We had like the bake off and all the things you do when you're selling a company. And we were acquired in November.
By then we'd moved to the shutters though, remember? We
were at the shutters. We did management presentations, which is when all the companies who have put a bid in come and you have to give like a 4-hour presentation. And we did them like 2 a day or back to back. And we were posted up at Shutters Hotel in Santa Monica. I was 10 months pregnant. 10 months pregnant doing management presentations. It was a sight. Yeah. And great. Then Kraft emerged as the clear, partner for us synergistically. We had the most to offer to them and they had the most to offer to us. And they were very strong in their conviction that they wanted to keep the Primal Kitchen team intact. And that was hugely important for us.
Oh, tremendous for us. Yeah.
Yeah. We wanted the legacy to live on, and we wanted the team that had built it thus far to carry us into the next phase, which is, I can say we're 3 years post-acquisition now almost. And we have, I think this is unheard of. We have almost the exact team still intact. We've of course added bodies, but our whole team is really still here. I don't know of another company that's been acquired in the food and beverage space where that's true. That's very unique.
Well, not only is is it unique to have, the same team? It's quite often that there's a wholesale restructuring when a company's required or acquired like that. So this is, and it's been great. I mean, I feel that Kraft Heinz has been sort of the perfect partner for us in that regard. They've given us the opportunity with, all of the resources at hand that they provide, but allowed us to continue to do what we do best, which is create new products, have an innovative marketing strategy, keep our team incentivized and excited to do the things that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I thought it's exceeded all my expectations. I thought it was going to be horrible or they were going to fire me for sure. And it's been really great working with them. We've gotten to hand off, most folks probably don't know this, but I mean, you had a personal guarantee on our line of credit that we used to grow the business. We never raised private equity money. We sold a very small percent of the company to basically a friends and family round a year before we were acquired. But I mean, I'm talking.
Well, and the reason for that, it was an interesting strategic move. Because at the time we were one of the largest buyers of avocado oil in the world, and we had to acquire avocado oil well in advance of using it as a raw material because our suppliers, our vendors, our manufacturers didn't want to hold on to it. So we were committed to these vast amounts of avocado oil a year into the future, and because the inventory requirements went from 6 different products and having 2 weeks or 3 weeks worth of product to now having 70 different products and having to have sometimes a month or 2 worth of each product in storage. Our inventory requirements were such that we needed a line of credit, and I was the main guarantor, put my house up and everything else as the guarantee on the line of credit. So we raised $4 million from family and friends in the way of equity, just so we could show on the balance sheet that we had $4 million of cash, so that our bank would extend our credit line to $10 million. Yeah. So that was very cool. Yeah. That we could that's one of those little things that we could do at the last minute and not have to. I don't think we really had to spend the $4 million that aggressively.
No, I don't either. I don't remember. We weren't in Rick managed the business well. We were never in a cash crunch. Right. Nothing. I mean, I was scrappy on the marketing side. We never ran the company like most people would run a company growing this fast. They would raise money. They would spend it all.
Yeah.
Just try to grow. Who cares about the bottom line? We were always neutral or positive.
I was writing the checks.
You're writing the checks. Yeah. And I wasn't about to go spend your money. That was too scary at the time.
Yeah, no, I was writing the checks. I mean, there were a few years where my income dropped, by 75%, which I was happy to do because it was being rolled back into the business.
Yeah. But it wasn't all sunshine and daisies, because right before we sold was a particularly stressful time in your life. You remember? And then, so we're at Expo East. I remember we were going to get lunch at Expo East, big trade show. We're in Baltimore. And you were like, I was up in the middle of the night. I'm so stressed. You were in a personal cash crunch, and you had another failed business.
The restaurant. Yeah. The restaurant deal. Yeah. I had started a restaurant business, at the same time that we had started the food business, and it was crashing down on me. And I mean, in a big way. At the end of when it's finally unwound, and this started unwinding in early 2018, and it hasn't finished yet, but when it's finally unwound, it'll be about a $4 million learning experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was under a tremendous amount of stress during that time.
You were coming to terms with this business is failing, and we're almost to the finish line on this, but we were in denial. I mean, I was fully in denial until January 3rd that we had actually sold the company. We're like, this is going to fall apart. There's no way this is going to happen.
Well, as you recall, I mean, there were times, in those last couple of weeks, because there's so many I's that have to be dotted and T's that have to be crossed, and things that come out of the woodwork, and this is going to fall apart. Oh no, it's going to fall apart here. And then, lo and behold, like you said, on that phone call on January 3rd, Kraft, are you ready to wire the money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, wait, so this is happening? Really?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. We were fully in denial, but you were stressed. I mean, that was the most stressed I think I've ever seen you, for sure. I mean, it was the timing, talk about timing, because
it was brutal. Yeah. But
yeah.
Past that now.
I know. Look, I brought it up and you're like, what are you talking about? And at the time,
no, that's exactly right. I thought that's what you were talking about, but I put it in the rear view mirror a long time ago. For me, it's like, I had to move on from that, because it wasn't just that period of time. I mean, for the year leading up to that, I hadn't slept well because of all the stuff that was going on there.
Yeah. What do you think you learned about yourself in the journey from when we started the company to where we are today? Like, you personally?
So I'll tell you exactly what I learned. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. For most of my life as an entrepreneur, I was like, thinking that I would hire really smart people, but that I would also have the answers and sort of micromanage. And I think the benefit of entering a business that I didn't know anything about was I didn't know enough to have an opinion quite often on what was supposed to go on. And so I think hiring you, hiring Rick, I think you hiring Anna, and hiring Amanda, and hiring your bridesmaids from whatever, your surfer girlfriends, Natalia. I mean, but partly because I mean, every one of those hires was a strategic hire. These weren't just like, I'm going to hire my friend and give her a job. This was like, these are people who know what they're doing. So for me to sit back, but to do what I do best, which is be the face of the brand and be the thought leader, that was exactly what I wanted to do. So I was writing checks, so I was clearly the financier as well. But in terms of what my contribution was, it was more from the 30,000 foot level and being available and going to trade shows and doing the stuff that I like to do, and letting other people who knew a lot more about the business do what they do best. And so I really, intellectually had gotten that over the years, that's what you're supposed to do. Henry Ford famously said, so famous, I forgot what he said, but something like, I'd rather have the fruits of, 1,000, guys, working for me than one smart, I don't know what it was, some smart guy, whatever. He was like, he knew he wasn't going to be the company. He was going to have to hire and manage the people who made the company what it was.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, that was the biggest lesson for me. And one I won't forget.
Yeah. Well, I definitely didn't know what I was doing, for sure. I still don't.
Don't tell me that now.
I do, this, but you really let me run with it. Like, you are not a micromanager. I mean, I had no business, no place being in the position I was in, quite honestly. I mean, I knew enough to know I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And I needed to find people who could help me. And that was as much as I knew. And I think I had a good innate sense for some things, and I could make a decision, and I'm scrappy. But aside from that, like, I would not be the person I am if I didn't work for you and you put so much confidence in me. You like really trusted me. You really stayed out of the way. You're like the anti-micromanager. Like, there's nothing more I could ask for in a boss, a friend, or a business partner than, I think, like the magic we had running the business together.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah. It was really, really a good chemistry that we had.
Yeah. I was, as Rick would say, way over my ski tips, but it was good. Okay, let's see. If you look back on the journey, what are you most proud of today?
Well, one of the things is I think we've changed food. I literally think that we sort of were the first company in the food space to design a product from sort of backwards. Instead of saying, okay, we need a mayonnaise, it's going to cost $2.85 on the shelf. How do we get there? How do we cost it? How do we buy the cheapest ingredients to make it and taste whatever it needs to do? And we set about to create the best possible product. We said, what is it going to take to make the best possible mayonnaise? Avocado oil, which is the best choice of oil, organic eggs, organic vinegar from non-GMO beets. We made the product, and then we said, okay, what does it cost to make, and what do we have to sell it for in order to be successful and make a product, make a successful product. And I think we've sort of backed our way into all of our products like that. And no, I don't think anyone had ever done that before. So what we wound up with was a suite of products that are the best in class. And there are other companies that are competing with us, and I welcome that, because I think we've changed the way manufacturers look at food. I think we've changed the way. I think we've appealed to a large segment of buyers who are knowledgeable enough to go, you know what, I know what I'm looking for. I know how to read a label. I just have never seen a product that fits my specifications. So when we arrived on the scene with this mayonnaise, or with this ketchup, which is probably the favorite of all of our products, I think we took a problem that had not been solved in 20 years of complaining. Mom's complaining about high fructose corn syrup and how crappy, the standard ketchup is. And we solved that problem with a great tasting, organic, unsweetened ketchup. I think I'm most proud of the fact that I think we've changed the way manufacturers are starting to approach their customers.
Yeah, it's very cool. It is a very different way of doing things. I'm going to answer this one first, but I'll ask the question, but I want to know the most memorable, best moment of Primal Kitchen. And I'm going to tell you mine, so you can't steal it. So let's see, it's Monday, maybe it's November 2nd or something. I'm on the phone with Rick, my water breaks, go to the hospital. 24 hours later, I end up having a C-section. Thank God, because I got to stay an extra few days in the hospital for my maternity leave. Friday, I come home with a new baby. The fires break out in Malibu. This is 2018, right? That's when you guys evacuated. Yeah. And on Saturday, you and I had a 4-hour phone conversation where we went through every single employee down to warehouse staff, everyone, and decided what bonus amounts we were giving every single person as part of the acquisition. And this was something we had talked about for years. We had already decided years before we sold the company, we were going to bonus everyone who worked for us. We told no one, and we gave away some bonuses that were life-changing amounts of money. And I remember we had this Google sheet, live and die in Google Sheets. And it was just such a, full circle, cool moment. So that was my first day home after I had Riker. And then sure enough, we had to pass that document off, 2 weeks later when the deal closed, to figure out what we were doing for everyone. But that was really, I think that was my most, that. And then we tried to personally call everyone on the team. We split up the roster and tried to call everyone before the acquisition news broke, but someone leaked the story the night before Kraft Heinz was going to go out with the press release. So I think it snuck out maybe morning instead of the afternoon. And we didn't have time between when we signed the deal and when this news leaked to call everyone, but we started calling people, and then we were like, Anna, call some people on your team, help before they read it in the news. But it was just such a crazy week.
Yeah, no, I was going to, that was certainly a high point, was making those phone calls. And I think, just having the offer from Kraft was a high point. And aside from that, there's just a lot of secondary high points of going to trade shows and getting the feedback from customers and from vendors and from anybody who's out there being courted by private equity groups who want to invest in the company and saying no, we're good, we don't need any investment. It was just, I loved the feedback throughout the years that we were growing the company. People basically saying, look, we love what you're doing, keep doing it. We had such cheerleaders on our sidelines for growing the company. Yeah,
no, we did. The trade shows were fun. I can't wait till those happen.
Yeah, same.
Okay. In a different life, Mark, if you weren't the co-founder or the founder of Primal Kitchen, what do you think you'd be doing right now if we didn't launch Primal Kitchen?
Well, knowing what I know now, if I'd started about 15 years ago, I'd be a DJ.
You would.
Yeah. EDM.
Interesting.
EDM, baby. Yeah.
This is a new thing. You were also, weren't you playing guitar? Like you were taking guitar lessons a couple of years ago, or piano?
No. I have a piano but I'm playing drums. So I have drums now. Yeah. So that was the thing I took up after we sold the company. I needed, something to take out my energy on a daily basis, and the drums was it.
I love it. So EDM DJ.
Yeah.
Interesting. Would you be in Miami, you think?
Or for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you're loving it.
Yeah.
It's great. Okay.
Either that or I'd be teaching stand-up paddling in Bali.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, you should do that.
Yeah.
I'll come. We should bring back Primal Con, but make it like in Bali and do stand-up paddleboarding. Sounds
okay.
Good.
There's certainly a lot of people have come out and said, when are we going to do the next Primal Con? We did I think 13 of them. We did Oxnard several times. We did Tulum. We did Mohonk up in upstate New York. We did Austin. We did Camp Richardson up in Lake Tahoe.
You went to Mexico.
Tulum. We did the Tulum.
Okay.
We had like 165 people on that. It was a 3-day, for people who don't know, Primal Con was a 3-day primal experience. And like you said, people would run around barefoot and learn Olympic lifting and how to throw an atlatl and, play ultimate Frisbee. And we would cater every meal with, paleo type foods. It was a 3-day experience in better living, and people loved it.
I love it. I know, that's where I feel we met. We got to bring back Primal Con.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay. Wrapping it up. I feel like, is there any part of the story I'm forgetting? Can you think of anything?
No, it's
pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you, what do you think Primal Kitchen looks like the next 5 years?
I told senior management at Kraft that I want this to be $1 billion company, $1 billion in sales. And I still feel like we have the trajectory to do that. And why that number? Because it represents ultimately, it's a measure of success that you can have a very successful, better for you, healthy food company that changes people's lives because they start to become more aware of what they're putting in their mouths and in their bodies.
Awesome. I love it.
Yep.
I look forward to seeing that vision come to fruition, as all of your visions. All right, Mark, thanks so much. This was awesome. I'm glad we memorialize this because we've been telling this story for quite a few years now, and it's fun to do it in a way that could live on.
Great.
So this was awesome. Thank you, guys. We'll be back next week with more great interviews. So stay tuned. Goodbye, everyone.